bueno, ya que estamos en Chicago, estamos como a, creo que 6 grados, más o menos. Hay sol, pero aún así obviamente se siente el frío.
My name is Kevin. I'll be your tour guide. We have a few minutes before we're getting underway. I'd like to let you know some amenities on the boat. There are restrooms on board for your convenience. Men's room on the left or port side at the back. Women's room on the right or starboard side. In between that is the bar and the most important person on the boat, your bartender, Lainey. Treat her well. She indeed indubitably has a pleasing plethora of liquid libations always available to titillate your taste buds, satisfy, slake, and satiate your thirst thoroughly. I think I got 7 alliterations in that time. So check out Laney's Bar, sit back, relax, my friends. This will be a 75-minute Architecture River Cruise round trip. We'll return to this very dock. May I say aloha and welcome aboard.
Aloha. Hey guys, how are you?
Where are you traveling from?
Got Kazakhstan, Mexico.
Wow, I have a friend from Kazakhstan.
I grew up in another great lake, Lake Erie, Cleveland, Ohio. But I moved here in August of 1981. I've been in Chicago for 40 years. I got a right to call myself a Chicagoan. My first night in town 40 years ago, I was a young actor. I got invited to a party. An actress walked up to me and said, "Oh, you're new in town." Well, let me tell you something, kid. This is a can-do town. The motto for the city of Chicago is I will. So you go out and you make things happen. And that spirit of I will that my friend Melinda told me about 40 years ago, she took the tour last year, as a matter of fact. The spirit of I will referred to the attitude of Chicago after the turning point in our history, the Great Chicago Fire. It happened on October 8th, 1871. You want to write that date down. It's going to be on the test after the tour. On that day, a fire supposedly started, me boyos, by Daisy, Mrs. O'Hour of St. Regis here in 2020 at 1,198 feet. Not only does that mean it's the 3rd tallest building in Chicago, but he gives Jeannie Gang a title, the tallest building in the entire world by a woman-led architectural firm. Pretty cool. But we have to say, thank you! Ladies and gentlemen, Andre the Bubble Guy. Bubbles, he welcomes all the boats to Chicago. You have been officially welcomed by Andre the Bubble Guy. I'm not sure, but I think Andre might have worked for the Hawaiian entertainer Don Ho in a former life. Tiny bubbles. Okay, really cool building coming up on our right with an almost mosque-like Moorish yellow onion skin dome. The Hotel Intercontinental began its life in 1929 as the Medina Athletic Club, a project of the philanthropic group who call themselves the Sons of the East, the Medina Shriners. Originally, the idea was to use that big dome as a landing pad for airships like the Goodyear blimp. That never happened. That steampunk dream would die with the Hindenburg. When the Hindenburg crashed, blimps, dirigibles, zeppelins, except for lead, all kind of fell out of favor. Now, London can have Big Ben, in Paris it's Eiffel Tower. I'm a Chicagoan. I'll take the Wrigley Building, the clock tower coming up on our right. 1921, North Face added 1924. Commissioned by Chewing Gum King William Wrigley Jr., who at that Columbian Exposition World's Fair in 1893 was selling juicy fruit to girls. The second tallest building in Chicago is Trump International Hotel and Tower, Adrian Smith Architects, Skidmore, Owings and Merrill, 2009. 98 stories, 1,171 feet. Aha! Slightly shorter than Jeannie Gang's building, but listed as taller because, do you know this? The architect's design. Later at the top of those stairs, look around and find a bust of Mr. DuSable to get a photo. The influence of the World's Fair travels with us again with a beautiful building with cupola dome and water tanks on your left, the Jewelers Building of 1926. Inspired by a 15th century Italian monastery, the Sposa de Pavia, but built here for the diamond trade. As early as... Now, the next building we're going to look at is a style I think most people are familiar with, modernism. Born at the Bauhaus, an art compound in 1920s Germany, merging industry and art decoration. That would be bourgeois. The building's beauty was the structure. I make it very simple. In modernism, you can strip your building down to this: skeleton, skin, space. Skeleton, the frame; skin, the glass curtain wall; space, a square. But look, there's a rebel in the modern crowd who did not like squares, Bertrand Goldberg, doing Marina City in a circular fashion. Can you see how these earned their nickname in the 1960s? Know that in the 1960s, this was all industrial. Most buildings turned their back on the river. This is the first attempt at a residential because people who work downtown wanted to live right downtown. And because you had nothing out here, he put everything at your fingertips at home. 4 restaurants, bowling alley, swimming pool, bank, space-age parking. You do have to have a valet park your car so you don't park in the river, called the Brutalism Appreciation Society. And people put up pictures of hideous concrete architecture from all over the world, and then they are. So, what do? We have more of a horizontal look than vertical. Okay, folks, I made a big claim at the top of this tour that Chicago invented the skyscraper. Big windows back in the day in the building trade, you would call that a Chicago window. Now, on our right, the style that truly put the roar in the roaring 20s, Art Deco, the 1930s zip code. It cost $32 million. The once great Chicago retailer, the Marshall Field Department Store, commissioned it. They dreamed of a giant, had to sell for only $13.5 million when Joseph P. Kennedy picked it up. Comes to a point. Now, the curb building on our left started it all. Contextualism at its best, 1983. The New Veen building, 333 Wissahickon Drive. The curb tries to follow the bank. The glass reflects architecture. That building set the bar very high. It said, if you dare build around me, bring your A game, do your best. And look around you, everybody has. From what point to the 150 North Riverside building. Put a pin in that building, we'll come back to it. Let's look at River Point for a moment. This is so cool. The sculpture is by Santiago Calatrava, and look around you, we're undergoing this residential renaissance, taking a clue from San Antonio, Texas, who started their Riverwalk in the 1980s. Chicago began bringing the river back to life in 1990 with the Urban Waterways Design Project. Now, someone who was somewhat prescient was Harry Weiss. Let's talk about 2 buildings. First, let's talk about the older warehouse on our left. This was the North American Cold Storage Warehouse, 70 years. It was converted into condos by architect Harry Weiss in the 80s. He had to defrost it for 3 months. And that's why you have those thick walls, though, there. Now, Harry Weiss went on to do what I call the 4 coolest townhomes in Chicagoland. I'd say this is the only example I'll show you on the tour of postmodernism, that rather over-the-top, ironic style, the late 80s. But Harry Weiss based these on cottages he knew. They're called the River Cottages. There's 4 of them there. Someone sold one a couple years ago. I would never move out, but they sold for $2.3 million. Triangular skylights like schooner sails, porthole, and come to a point because you have railroad tracks on the western river and the east and only a 2-acre footprint. Amazing building. No one built here for 30 years because it's a tiny.
Beep, beep. ¿Qué dulce se pasó, no?
I'm just gonna bring these up because